Hi, we are back on the Silverfox Hustle podcast. I'm Shasi, and I want to wish you guys Happy New Year. It's not really the new year because it's like the second month already, but this is the very first episode of 2023 for the Silverfox Hustle podcast. So Happy New Year, by the way. And before we go on, please click on the follow, subscribe button. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. We're everywhere, so please don't forget to do that. Share the love. As usual, it's a new year, but everything's the same. We've got some great guests on the show to inspire you guys. So let's start off. Let's get started. My very first guest for 2023 is an emotional intelligence therapist. We shall get to that later on and dive into what that is. She's also a model and actress with Empire Artists, and she is also a winner of Miss Vasantam's version of the King of Culinary. She's a cook as well. Welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Rasathi, how are you? Good?
Well, I'm good, yeah.
Since we are on that topic,
which topic is that?
The King of Culinary topic,
Gosh,
right?
okay.
How did that? I mean, we all know that you are, an emotional intelligence art therapist and stuff. But where did this cooking part come about?
How did I enter the competition?
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of my friends actually works on the production, and they were trying to get as many people to come and audition as they could.
Okay.
And they knew that I cook at home anyway. I mean. They have eaten at my house before, so they were like, you cook really well. Why don't you try this out? And I was like, okay, why? Why not? You know, it was one of those yes moments that turned into something else entirely. So yeah, that's how it started, and then I made it through auditions. So.
Were you surprised that you actually won it? The Indian?
Oh my gosh, yes! Yeah. I was actually surprised that I even made it to the competition because when I sat in front of the judge and presented my audition piece, he very happily said, "Oh yeah, this would be good for children." I was like. Oh.
For what? For children?
Yeah, the food was only good enough for children. It would be good for their palate. It wouldn't be sophisticated enough for... And I was like, he's not going to call me back. It's okay now. So I walked back home, and then I got a call that said, hey, you know what? Why don't you come in? Because I was the only person who didn't bring biryani that day.
What was it in terms of numbers, in total number that actually signed up and auditioned?
I'm not sure, but I know that we went into the competition with at least 10 contestants.
All right.
I don't think we saw all 10 though. Maybe. Yeah.
And just in the competition itself, you went through it. How many weeks was that whole?
From air date until it finished, I'm not entirely sure. But it was only 2 shoot dates for me.
And
back-to-back shoot dates.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you did beat the chef.
Okay, so it's 4 rounds. The first round is to beat the mentee chef. So there's like 3 main chefs.
Right.
Each of them have a mentee. So if I can beat the mentee, then I get to go up against the chef itself. I beat the mentee. I beat 2 of the 3 chefs. I lost the last one.
Wow.
So 4 rounds, I won 3 of them.
Who did you beat? It was Chef Bala?
Chef S.R. Bala, Chef Dana Balan, and actually lost to Chef Anand. I don't know how that happened.
Well, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
That was great work. And let's get started, all right? And we will get to the emotional intelligence bit in a while. Let's talk about you.
Sure.
And how you got there, because I think that's important as well.
Oh my gosh,
how you got there. You were born in Singapore.
I was born here.
Why go to the US?
My dad couldn't sit still. So he was still studying at the time. So when I was born, I was left with my grandmother, just around the corner actually.
Okay.
Raised in Whampoa, lived there for about 5 years, and then my mom and my dad, who happened to be living in London at the time, sent for us to move up with them. So I went to London first. I was there for about 2 years.
Okay.
From there, he finished his studies. He wanted to start out fresh. We moved to Brisbane. I was in Brisbane for 4 years. Then we moved to Adelaide for a year. Then Jakarta for a year. Finally, I ended up in the US. I was in the US for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've been everywhere, almost everywhere.
Pretty much.
What was it like in the US?
The U.S. was not that bad, actually.
Yeah?
I will say this, in comparison to all the other 4 countries that I've lived in, they're all big metropolitan areas, right? So
which are the 4 again? Australia?
So Singapore, UK, Australia, Indonesia.
Okay.
Lots of culture. You don't have just, a few. U.S. was culture shock in the fact that there's only black and white, and that's it. Maybe some Hispanics. But where I was living was out in the country in Virginia.
Okay.
It was just black or white, and I didn't fit in either. So the black people were like, "Oh, she's kind of white," and the white people were like, "Oh, she's kind of black." And I'm like,
you're right in the middle.
Yeah, great.
How were you treated? This is very interesting. How were you treated there?
My coping mechanism is to people please and fly under the radar.
Okay.
So I tried to make sure that no one really noticed me. I kind of just kept my head down and focused on studies. Mostly because that was
it easy to do?
It was for me. I found my niche early. I was good at studying. Because I was able to get along with the teachers.
You're good at studying.
I was good at studying. I really was.
It's a
nerd.
typical Singaporean trait.
But considering I wasn't really raised in Singapore, that's kind of odd, right?
Right.
The studies is the one thing that was consistent throughout all my travels. So it doesn't matter what the level of education or intelligence that they were expecting was. I could manage. I mean, if you look at it from a bird's eye view, I lived in 5 different countries. I studied 7 different languages. I had been to 10 different schools all before I hit 14.
7 languages. What?
So, of course, English is my first language. I learned Tamil at home, but Jaffna Tamil, not Singaporean Tamil. So that's also like something I struggle with a little bit. I learned French, Japanese, Mandarin, Bahasa Indonesia, and then Spanish.
Wow.
Yeah.
So nobody can just cheat you along the streets when you go to these countries and you know, you can just...
They could.
they can't, man. Can't. And Mandarin as well.
Mandarin as well. It was really hard. So the two languages I really did not enjoy was Mandarin and French. It was really hard for me.
Okay.
But Spanish is really easy. Bahasa Indonesia was also quite easy. Japanese was fun.
Do you write as or no? It's just spoken?
Spoken.
Yeah, right.
Japanese and Chinese, they made us write. I mean, everything else is like Arabic, English letters, so it's not that bad.
So we know you're a nerd.
Completely.
How about sports and I don't know, the arts and singing and
So my family is very traditional Sri Lankan. They insist that we make sure that we're educated classically, which means Bharatanatyam, Carnatic music.
Wow.
So we definitely took that since young. Sports-wise, my mother was good about allowing us to participate. She wouldn't allow me to compete professionally until I got to college, but it was like a PE. You have to be an all-rounder. So I swam for the school. I played tennis for the school very badly, I might add. We played cricket, with the Tamil school, families or whatever. We were always active. It was that culture where you stay out until the streetlights come on and then you come back home.
Right.
Everywhere we went, we had family members.
Nice.
I had cousins everywhere, so we always it was just our cousins' clan that we ran around with.
So you with your parents? Do you have any siblings? And
I have 2 younger brothers.
Right.
I'm the eldest.
And they're here in Singapore? Or?
No, my youngest brother is in Melbourne with my mom.
Okay.
And my middle brother is actually in the US at the moment.
Right. They're everywhere, man. You've got
it.
Nice. Now, is this true? Obviously, you studied in the US for a very long time. How long in total, roughly?
From 1994 all the way up into 2003. So high school and university.
So you're the right person to actually... I don't know whether the right person because you never really...
I have a good perspective, I think.
Yeah, because you never really went through the Singapore system.
I am now. Okay, my daughter is 12.
Okay, then good.
She's in P6.
Okay, then
we're struggling with that now.
So let's talk about this a little bit, right? Because you know the differences now. Is it really true that we really got it bad in terms of the stress levels?
Okay, the stress level I feel is high, very high, unnecessarily high, because Singapore is very focused on passing, not necessarily learning. So I'm of the opinion that in order to know something really well, you need to know every aspect of it. You need to know how to be able to explain it many different ways, right? But Singapore is really good about teaching one way, stick to the one way, and if you don't get the one way, then you fail.
Right.
But not everyone learns that way, so that's my difficulty with that.
I'm
a Montessori mom. I need the kids to touch and feel and talk and explain.
So your daughter is doing PSLE this year?
Yeah.
So who's more stressed out now?
I am.
So it is true then? Because it is true, right?
Okay, so there are messaging apps, right, for the school to keep in touch with the parent. I have not heard this much from the parents, from the teachers, until this year. She's been in that school for 5 years already. So this is the first time I hear from them at least twice a week. And that is stressful.
Listen, I don't mind having a group chat with the teachers, just giving information. It's fine. But not with the parents, other parents. I
am tired of WhatsApp groups. And I will say this. So I made it a point to be a volunteer. So they still do parent volunteers at the school.
Yep.
So I was the chairperson for the volunteer group for 2 years. I am the co-chair now.
Right.
But the amount that they lean on the parents is actually unreal. Like, I never expected it. They really depend on us to kind of come in the clutch and be there for the kids. And I get it, it's not about teaching anymore. I know there's a lot more admin stuff the teachers have to deal with now.
Yes.
So it's not just about How do I make a lesson plan, make it enjoyable for the kids, and then make sure they get it? They're rushing through everything, seriously.
Yeah. Well, it's something that we've got to, move on with. But how's your daughter doing? Fine, no problems, yeah? Easy peasy. Is she a
the
nerd
good news
like
is,
you?
no, she's more autistic than I am.
Okay.
She finally has a goal. Like all this time, she wasn't sure what she was going to do. She wants SOTA next year. So that means she got to go express. That means she really got to buck up. So now that she found the carrot that she wants, I don't need the stick anymore.
Great. That's good. At least she knows, yeah. Now, you did quite a few, I wouldn't say few, loads of stuff in the US in terms of working-wise.
Yes.
Yeah, let me just
sure, of course.
run down the list. A clerk, assistant store manager, senior data analyst, and the list goes on, right?
Yeah.
Was it just you feeling your way around, trying to find something that is really you, or is just
irony,
part-time?
The irony in the U.S. is you go to university, right? They say you have to finish high school, you got to go to college, you got to get a degree, and then you'll get this higher pay grade or whatever.
Yeah.
What they don't tell you is once you have the paper that proves that you have the knowledge, you don't have the experience. Where are you going to go?
Okay.
You have to start at the bottom, and a lot of times the people who will hire you at the bottom are rack room shoes, retail therapy, retail outlets.
But isn't it the same for everywhere?
I don't know because here in Singapore, right? I don't know what that process is. I'm not familiar with that yet. I know that you don't live on campus most of the time when you go to uni. You still stay at home, and most of the time you have internships, but the internships here are paid very minimally, if they're paid at all.
Right.
In the U.S., you have the opportunity to do summer jobs, when school is out. Here you don't have really summer to speak of, right? You have a month in June, you have like a month and a half in November, December.
Right.
In the U.S., you have 3 full months from end of May until mid-August, maybe September even. You're free. You have to have a summer job. What are you going to do otherwise?
I see.
So it's very different. You start working way earlier in the US.
Right. Now, I wanted to ask you about the US and living there for a very long time. But then again, I just found out that you were in a few places already, right? So how did that shape your life? Because I think those experiences would have helped you in loads.
Yeah. So if you asked me while I was a teenager, I hated it. I could not make friends for nuts.
Hated what?
Moving around so much.
Oh, okay.
Every time we were very minimalist, I will say this. So every time we moved, it wasn't like we packed a crate and trunks and all. It was one suitcase per person.
Right.
So I got rid of things really easily. And we started over again wherever it was. The difficulty for me was to fit in. I could never fit in because every time I moved, I was the new girl. And you're cool for a day until you open your mouth, and then people know exactly what you are made of, and then you have no escape.
Why? What were you made of? Like in terms of what? Like your opinions?
I loved to read. I would read everything I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
So if they had like a summer reading list or like a class, I would read all of that. So back before it became movies, Z's for Zachariah, The Silver Chair, The Silver Sword, like all of the Chronicles of Narnia, like all of that stuff I used to read, and it kept me out of trouble. But that also meant that the way I spoke, the vocabulary I used, right, is very, very different. Not only do I not fit in because it's not the slang of that country I happen to be in, but I just spewed nerd in a way that people could, it was very obvious.
Interesting. Why come back?
Honestly, divorce brought me back. But I chose Singapore on purpose because I have the highest concentration of family members here.
Business concentration of what? Sorry? Family members, right?
Yeah, so my mom's side of the family, my mom's entire side, 4 brothers, all their parents, all their kids. And then at the time, my grandparents were also here.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, so if I move back here, it's not going to fall to any one person as a burden to kind of support me until I get my feet, back on the ground.
Right.
There was a network of people.
Okay.
But what I didn't realize was I came back after like 30-something years. They had their own schedules, their own routines, their own family. They didn't have time for me, but it's okay. I figured it out.
So you just came back with your daughter when she was...
She was 2.
Right. But for her, then it will be easier.
That was exciting for her. Yeah? I remember we stepped out of Changi Airport. She was like, the air tastes good. I was like, huh?
What?
Yes.
Okay.
I was like, okay. She was like, can we stay? I was like, yeah, we can stay. She didn't know we were staying, of course, because at the time, I was leaving quite an abusive relationship, and I did not want her to say anything to my husband where he would think that we weren't coming back. So we booked a dummy ticket, we came back here, we started over,
Wow. And was there a plan? Oh, obviously you were trying to get away.
The plan
but
ended with landing in Singapore.
That's
that was
it,
pretty much
right?
it.
Wow.
Once I got here, I was like,
that must be scary.
it was terrifying. Because not only did I leave my ex-husband, I left 2 stepkids.
Ah, right. Wow.
Yep.
So, okay. So you came back, and again, you like in the US,
Yep.
you did a couple of things here as well.
I did.
Right? Okay. The list, right?
Yes,
the list.
please.
An executive assistant, a curriculum executive, marketing executive. Loads, right? Loads.
Loads. And the funny thing is, when I came to Singapore with the existing resume, like the work experience from US,
Right.
they were looking at me like, I don't know where to place you because you have too varied an experience. Singapore is very like, blinders on, one path the whole way, so we know where to put you next. We know what your experience
Right.
level is.
Right.
But I'm more like MacGyver, Quantum Leap kind of
Yeah.
situation where I
Yeah.
kind of do a little bit of everything. You throw me in there, I'll figure it out, and,
Okay.
and we'll make it work. Here, the difficulty was I couldn't find somewhere where I fit in.
Yeah.
And I think something we talked about before was why is it different? What is the difference between working in the U.S. versus working here?
Yep.
HR is not as strong here.
Okay.
HR is about protecting middle and upper management here.
Okay.
In the U.S., HR is the go-between management and the regular working staff, which means
Okay.
if there is a grievance, HR's job is to find out what the grievance is and make it so that the whole network works more effectively, more efficiently. That's
And here?
not how that works here.
And here? You don't want to repeat that?
Here it's like, oh, you're causing problems. How we fix you?
We'll fix you.
Pretty much.
Wow. Okay. So basically, you didn't really have, a plan, so to speak. As in,
plan.
I'm going to work towards this and this, right? Wow.
The only plan was how do I feed my kid? That was it.
And with all this stuff that you did, what did you learn the most besides the HR bit?
People are people everywhere you go.
Yeah?
No matter what country, what style of work, whether they're married, divorced, widowed, dating, they're all the same.
But you could do all these jobs.
Yep.
Perfectly, right? I wouldn't say perfect, but
I
you
got
did-
to a point where I had mastered the job itself, yes.
Wow. That's great because then you can almost do everything, right? Like little bits of everything. And
I mean, honestly speaking, over the broad spectrum of things, I studied psychology, I have a master's in education, and I have a cert in human resources management.
okay.
From there, I ended up working in retail. I did F&B, I did contracts, I worked at a spa, I taught yoga. I worked in shipping. I trained people how to use SAP, which was brand new at the time when it
Okay.
came out of Germany. Like,
Right.
I've done a little bit of everything.
Rasathi, you can do everything, man. No problem. Just throw you anywhere and anywhere, right? You can do everything.
I could. Yeah, maybe.
Before we start with EI,
Sure.
right? Why start a business? Because you've done this bit, you've done everything, a little bit of everything, and then what just clicked in your head? Like, did you dream of something and then say, I want to start a business? What?
So, necessity is the mother of all invention. And again, the culture in Singapore is very different from the US. In Singapore, you have to have extra help to be able to raise a child because there is no work-life balance. So I got to a point where I'm a single mom. I'm trying to take care of my kid. I had a maid at home. Eventually, I'm going to have to put my child in school because she has to learn, how to socialize with people and stuff. So we did that. But what was happening was I would finish my 9 to 5, which actually ends at like 6:30, almost 7. And then run from the bus stop to get to daycare to pick her up before they shut down,
At
only
7.
to have maybe 1.5 hours to check her homework, give her a bath, have dinner, maybe sit and talk for like 5 minutes, put her to sleep. And then she wakes up at 6:30 in the morning and does it all over. I was not raising my child. I did not get to see her. I wasn't allowed to do anything. I couldn't be there for events or participate in school. It was killing me and her as well. So what I realized was they don't care, as in like the workforce in Singapore, they don't care if you have a relationship with your child or not, because once they give you a salary, it is their understanding that they own you for whatever time period. If it's salaried, WhatsApp will go off at all hours of the night, emails.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, I gotta say no. But
Right.
then I can't say no because what if they
Yeah.
fire me? What if they write me up? Like, this is where that,
Okay.
it becomes really difficult. So I started a business because there wasn't a way for me to effectively raise my child and make money. So where I couldn't find a way, I had to make a way.
That's a bold move in terms of trying
It's
to
insane.
step out of a so-called full-time job, salaried job, right? It's a bold move, right? And like you said, it's born out of necessity. And okay, you decided to start a business. What business? That is
I wasn't sure. That was the thing. I wasn't sure. And the thing is, when I quit my job, I had just that salary, that one check. People say, "Oh yeah, save up 6 months lah, then you can."
right. Yeah.
I didn't do that. I was not smart about this. It was one of those, "Oh, I'm sick and tired. Okay, get already." So I had the one check, and I decided I was going to go back to school. So I actually do not do this at home. I used a credit card,
Okay.
right? And I booked myself in for Tony Robbins has a coaching course.
Okay.
So the Robbins Madonna's counseling program,
Okay.
like $5,000 in the U.S. ended up being almost like 7 something
Yep.
here.
Yep.
And I put myself through that, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll learn this in the meantime. Let me get back to my, psychology. Because what was happening was I used to work the Grand Hyatt before all of my, tuition, education-related jobs. And the guests would pull me aside for hours in the lobby and talk about life. And
Okay.
so from there, I started noticing what people ask me advice for.
Okay.
What do they end up talking to me about?
Okay.
And from there, I started realizing they're asking me about life and people skills, which is where EI came in.
Right. So that was one of your ideas of how to.
It wasn't my idea. Somebody
Yep.
told me.
Right.
They were
right.
like, you know what? You do this really well. You should be paid for it. I was like, I can be paid for that? Wait, time out. I don't understand.
Okay. So EI, and it stands for emotional intelligence,
It does.
right? Please tell me and tell everyone at home what that is, and is that the same as EQ?
I would like to think it is the
Yeah?
same as EQ. I mean, people are
Okay.
going to have varied ideas of what this is. For me, my understanding of what, emotional intelligence is, if you could understand what your feelings are telling you. So, bear with me for a second.
No problem.
If your spirit could speak to you, it would speak through your emotions. When you get angry, it's because somebody has violated a boundary of yours. Now you got to think about, well, did I set the boundary? Do they know about it? Or should I set it now and see if they respond? But you feel violated. You feel stepped on. You feel like encroached on. And that's something that comes from feelings. So feelings, there is no controlling them. You have to feel them. You have to understand them. And then you do what you need to do from there to protect your spirit, to kind of like, connect to the regular world.
Before I ask you another question,
Sure.
and this got to do with EQ and EI, and what does it take to be an EI therapist? Obviously, you got an idea from someone that, okay, EI could be for me, and counseling and being a therapist, right? But how do I get there? I can't just, because...
So
yeah.
the crazy thing about coaching and therapy in this particular space, it's not actually regulated.
Okay.
So there is no certification for this.
Okay.
And what I ended up doing was I started teaching a lot. Now I am certified to give therapy and counseling because of my background, but that's also
Yep.
like a very old version of this back when they
Okay.
taught everything. But what I'm realizing now is they teach you in such a way that you follow all the protocols of the
Okay.
country that you're in, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually helpful. If it's according to protocol, you have lanes, you have bumper rails that you have to play within, right?
It
You can't step
depends
out.
on the country you are in as
Yeah.
well, and the culture and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Now, just going
Sure.
back to that EI and EQ thing, right? What do you think about? I personally feel in Singapore, it's missing.
It is.
We talk about IQ and all.
That's the only measure they care about,
I don't
right?
like to talk about that anymore, especially with kids.
Yeah.
And to kids, I think EQ is very, very important, and not only
I
kids.
wish they taught it in primary
Because
school.
for adults even,
Yeah.
colleagues and whoever, your friends and all, it's missing, right? Do you feel the same way, or
Absolutely.
am I the only one?
I listen to me out there. I really wish they would teach this in elementary school. Because
Right.
if you could figure out how to not let someone's words bother you, you could actually move forward faster. It's like tuning out things that don't matter, right? It's like white noise. Oh, that doesn't actually scare me anymore because I know what it is, where it's coming from, and it doesn't actually mean anything.
It's
to
a
me.
difficult
not-
thing to do, isn't it?
It is very difficult. But can you imagine how much trauma you would actually go through if you understood from a very young age? If someone's angry with you, it's more about them than it is about you.
Right.
And if you understood that bullying comes from a place of insecurity, you would maybe feel sorry for your bullies instead of being like, oh my gosh, I need to fight them. I need to do something. You might want to make friends with them and change the nature of your
It's
relationship.
a difficult thing to do, man.
Of course, if if you're listening to the words and being affected by the words, of course it's difficult to do.
And this is a big thing here in Singapore. You see recently in the news and on FB and stuff, kids getting bullied for
everything.
for
And right
everything.
now, it's not just in school. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because they're all on the internet.
Yep.
And people, I don't know if you've noticed this, people are super bold when they're in the DMs and their private group chats or whatever.
Yep.
They don't care what comes out of their
Right,
mouth because
right,
no
yeah.
one's going to punch them for
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
No one's going to put them, on
Yeah.
blast for the things that they say. So they're more bold and they're more vicious.
Yeah, it's kind of like a strategy as well. If you're talking about maybe laughing at not laughing at the bullies, like being friends with them and things like that. It's like a strategy, a coping strategy, right? Isn't
It is, and something that I realized a long time ago is the kids who are the most unlovable need it the most. They're lashing out before someone can push them away because that is their coping mechanism. If I were to be very honest with you, and you think back and you figure this out for yourself as well, your entire life right now, as it is right now, is built on all your coping mechanisms.
Yeah, true.
Those are the rules that govern how you make decisions and what you do next.
Exactly. If you really think about it.
Which means, if you were programmed, like any computer program, if you were programmed a specific way, there are limitations to what you can achieve because of the way it's programmed. So that means you got to backtrack all the way, to the beginning and reprogram.
Reboot.
Which is what I teach people.
I just wanted to ask you that.
Yep.
What do you exactly do? Okay, let's say I'm a client, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you exactly do? So I come to you with a specific problem, or
Usually people come with a specific problem.
okay.
Yeah. And right now, most of my clients, I'm very proud to say, most of my clients are all word of mouth clients.
Yeah, that's
most
good.
Of them, yeah. So most of them have either been following me for a while or know somebody else who was in therapy with me, and they feel like, okay, they're doing well now. I see the change in them. Let me go check out what they did.
what? Give me an example of a problem, as someone would.
One of my oldest clients was a guest from Grand Hyatt.
Okay.
And they were going through a difficulty where the husband was the one who made all the money, she was the one who stayed home, raised the kids, and he was moving countries. So it started there, where she had no say in where they were going to live, because he was relocated to somewhere and she was having a tough time with that. But from there, so many other things sprouted, and we dealt with alcoholism, and we dealt with dealing with a narcissistic partner. There were a lot of things that came out of that, and she realized that she had lost her voice along the way because somewhere along the line she gave him the benefit of the doubt. She didn't speak up when she should have. She didn't make a boundary when she should have. And because she had consistently denied herself, when she went to ask him to change, he was like, well, all this time it was fine. What's the problem now? Like, why are you being
Right.
irritating about this? Why are you nagging me? Why is this a problem all of a sudden? And he was able to effectively turn it onto her and make it her problem instead.
Right. And this would probably take over a couple of sessions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah?
she doesn't need me anymore. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of. I don't want you to be stuck with me for the rest of your life, because if that's what's happening, I'm not doing good at my job.
Yeah.
I want to teach you what I know. I want to see you actually put it into practice. And when you get the hang of things, you shouldn't need me anymore. Max 6 months. Max.
Okay. And that's probably the most satisfying thing about your job.
Absolutely, because I can see where they came to me for therapy. And most people, when they seek out therapy, it's because the people around them who need therapy will not go to therapy. So this person will go to therapy on their behalf almost. Like, I need to deal with them because they won't do it.
How in the world did you get your first client? Because
it started with friends.
Okay.
It started with people who were just struggling, that were in my circle anyway.
And they paid you?
They did not pay me. They did not pay me. So
okay.
what I did was I did everything pro bono first.
Right. And then the word of mouth.
Yeah, and then when it became a situation where it was more about battling a label that they'd been given by another therapist. Because the unfortunate thing that I notice, right, when people go to therapy or counseling, they are given a label. Oh, you're this, you're bipolar, you have,
You have a problem, basically.
You have ADHD, you have something, you have anxiety and depression, all these things. But the minute that they hear that, it's like, oh, it's okay now. I know what it is. This is what I am. But if I were to come and tell you have cancer, you're going to fight that tooth and nail with everything you have. But they don't do that with mental health. They do not fight it. They don't say, okay, this is what's wrong with me right now. I could get better. No. They kind of like, okay, this is what I am.
Resign to the fate.
Yes, and I hate that. I hate that so much.
What were the challenges you faced? The early part of your business, right? What were the challenges?
A lot of people are very quick to say, oh, you're not qualified enough. But what does it mean to be qualified enough? Because honestly, there's no program you go to become a parent. There's no certification for being a parent. So how is that possible?
Yeah.
So not to say that I guess I'll describe it like this. I do not prescribe medication. And I do not tell people to get off medication. I simply give you people skills that you could put into practice today to see if there's a difference in your life or not.
What is the most something that is most lacking in Singaporeans, with Singaporeans, in terms of the EQ part? What do you think?
I think Singaporeans are raised to think that they're all broken.
Sorry?
I think Singaporeans are raised to think that they're all broken.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is the minute you make a mistake, that's something that's wrong with you. Instead of that's not how you process data. You need something else to be able to process it properly.
Okay.
I think there was like an old quote, something to the effect of, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll grow up its entire life thinking it's stupid. But it's
Right.
not. It's not meant to climb a tree. It's meant for something else. And we're not all robots. We're all meant to do different things. That's what society is for.
Right. And which goes back to something that I believe in, is that there's always a place for everyone.
Yes.
There's a place.
Yes.
Even if you are slower, for example.
But you're slower for a reason.
Yeah.
If you're slower, you process things at a different rate and you're able to see the beauty in things. The faster we go by, we don't stop
Right.
and smell the roses. We don't notice the architecture. We're rushing from place to place.
Right, right.
But if you process things slower, there's a genius to that too.
And you were talking about mental health just now, and obviously what you do is closely related to
Yes.
that, because it's I don't know, somebody might come to you with a problem like that, right? And I deal with youths and young adults because
Yes.
I'm teaching there and stuff like that. What do you think, from your experience, is the mental state of the youth of today, Singaporeans especially? Like
I think the majority of people who come to me, right?
Yeah.
They are dealing with a lot of noise in their head.
Okay.
And a lot of the noise in their head is from people around them. And they are mistaking what other people have said to them, their opinions of them, as their own belief system, as this is who I am now. You are allowed to make up your own mind about who you are and what you're capable of. And if you run your life based on what other people have told you you're capable of, you're not going to venture far out that bubble, right? If someone
Yeah.
has said that, you can't do that, you're a girl. Some people will be like, yeah, I can't do that, I'm a girl, and they will resign themselves to the fact and they won't do those things. But some people will be like, oh yeah, really? Watch this, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
transverse that barrier or whatever.
Is that the age where they're the most vulnerable in that sense? Like just listening.
I think that's beyond age already. I think
Okay.
generally
Right.
that's one of those aspects of life that really has a chance to cripple your potential.
And just going back to what you said just moments ago, it's got to do with words, isn't it? It's how powerful words can be, especially from. It's not even friends and people who are far off. It's within your.
And that's the most tragic thing. It's
Yeah,
the
family
people you
members.
really look up to or go
Right.
to for advice, the people that should know better. I think the biggest misconception is that your parents should know better. Your parents are also winging it. There's no
Yeah.
right way to raise children. Every child is
Of course.
different. We were told, oh no, you shouldn't have favorites. And it's not about favorites though, but every child needs something different,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So our parents' generation doesn't know better.
Yeah.
And they were not brave enough to find something better when something doesn't work. They just do what they're told. They do what they know. They do it the way they were raised because they turned out fine. That's their excuse for everything. We turned out fine.
Right.
It didn't bother us. We're okay.
Yeah. And again, you talk about this, and it's very difficult to break this if there's no there's no education on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which is why I'm desperately fighting the system.
Because if you have youths who are already 18, 19, and they're so used to this, thinking that, okay, maybe I'm not good at this, I'm useless at this, and there's no one to tell them that, no, you
Okay,
still can
cool.
do this.
Try something else.
Yeah, or you still can do this, or you
Yeah.
can do it in another way. Then they'll still, So what I'm saying is, it's tough to break
very
this.
difficult. It's very difficult. The ironic thing is I went to school to become a guidance counselor.
Okay.
So I could help kids find their path, whatever their passion
Right.
is. And I went way left and did all kinds of other things instead. And now I've
Yeah.
come back to the beginning. And I mean, I did a series of lectures for the University of Cape Town just teaching the same
Okay.
thing. These are kids that are in university still.
Right.
And they're getting ready to graduate, but they hate what they're studying.
Okay.
Or they're worried about whether they'll be able to, to find what they're looking for.
Right.
And I know everyone knows what a midlife crisis is, but that comes from saying no to yourself for so long where finally you get to a point where you can't say no anymore. I'm done. I'm just going to do what I want now.
Okay, this just came to my head
Sure.
because I remembered watching your stuff on Instagram, and it's about gentle parenting. Because
Yes.
I saw this. It was good. It was good. And whatever you said about how we were growing up,
Yeah.
our parents and stuff, it's true, isn't it?
It's sad.
just do it. that kind of thing,
Yeah.
or just
They
like,
push you through so much, and I really do mean push. It's like
Right,
you're
right.
saying no for a reason, but they're pushing you thinking they're encouraging you. It's not.
and I truly get this, but I also have to say this
Sure.
in a way.
Yeah.
It has helped us as well.
Some
Or
of
it
us.
has helped
Some
me.
of us. Some of us who have taken that pushing and we're like, okay, fine, I'll just shut you up and I'll just try it anyway. We found that it wasn't as scary as we thought.
Right.
But then some of us resent that. Some of us
of
cannot
course.
get past the fact that you forced me into this, and I don't understand why you forced me. Why they can't get past that one conversation. And something that I try really hard for people to remember is that happened when it's not happening now. It
Okay.
stopped happening a while ago, but
What
you're
stopped
still
hap-
stuck.
what stopped
So let's say
happening?
somebody told you off and said, you're no good, you can't do this.
Okay.
That would have happened, let's say 1993 it happened, right?
Right.
You're here in 2023,
Okay.
and you're still thinking about that conversation. It still runs your life. That person has moved on. They're not doing that anymore.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not right in front of you telling you, but
Okay.
you're stuck in that
Yep,
version
yep.
of yourself where you can't see past what
Yep.
else is possible.
Right.
And for some people, that's a really big
Okay.
problem. It's a
Right.
very real problem.
Right. Does it also lead to, I'm talking about the gentle
Sure, sure.
parenting part, does it also lead to whatever we're saying now, strawberry generation or whatever, does it make you, I don't know, the kids, I'm talking about the kids, not you, I'm talking about the kids, softer, I don't know.
There are a couple extremes in there, though, I
Yeah.
think. All right. I think millennials,
All right.
which we happily name the raspberry generation or whatever.
Okay, okay.
Or strawberry. I don't know. It's about being bruised easily, right?
Okay, yes, yes.
I think the idea is that they get so frustrated and want to quit when they hit their first roadblock. Whereas
Okay.
our generation, I
Right.
think I feel safe enough saying that, our generation, we hit multiple roadblocks
Yeah.
and we keep pulling through.
Right.
We keep trying. We don't stop trying. And that's the thing. I think when they hit their first roadblock, they just stop trying and they want to try something completely different already.
Okay.
That sense of rejection is really strong for them. And they're not sure how to cope because they haven't dealt with so much rejection before.
Right. And I also get this, like, they're doing it not for themselves, they're doing it for their parents. Because
Still,
they
yes.
don't want to disappoint their parents.
Right.
And then once that first roadblock, like you said, hits, and then
So two things are happening. It's a rejection based on what their parents wanted. And the second thing is they didn't want this in the first place and now they're being rejected.
Yeah.
Well, now what
It's
do I
double
do? Because
whammy,
I
right?
haven't had a chance to really think of what else there could be.
Right.
I've been focused on this one thing. And so now what is the world if I'm not doing this? What is the world if I can't? It's
Yeah,
really quite scary for them.
listen, this conversation is good but also scary because I
is.
have two kids and they're at the age where they're growing up and it's like it's really crazy if you think about whatever that's happening out in the world, suicides and stuff like that,
So shall I give you one piece of information that I'm hoping will relieve your
Yep,
stress
yep.
as a parent? Ready? You're going to screw them up. Regardless.
Oh,
no matter
thanks.
what you do. Gentle parenting, hard parenting, rotan, whatever. You're going to screw them up.
Right.
The best thing you can do for your kids is have an open dialogue with them where they have a say in their life. They can tell you what they're feeling, what their roadblocks are. And then it's not about, I'm older, I know better, just do what I say. It's more about, I've seen some things before. Why don't you tell me what you're facing and we'll work on this together. And then it's like, okay, you've got their back and they know it. They don't feel so scared to fail anymore. They'll try a couple of things. They'll risk a couple of things now.
Yeah.
And if they fall, they will come tell you about it and now you can game plan what do you do next.
Right.
Our generation, we could not tell anyone we failed.
Yep,
We better
yep.
hide that stuff and pretend like we didn't until we did. We fake it till we make it because failure was so frowned upon.
Yep. True. Very
So
true.
you're going to screw them up no matter what you do.
Yep.
But if you can have an open dialogue, that changes things.
Great piece of advice. And anybody watching this and you're listening to this, it's great piece of advice. Rasathi, there are a couple of quotes that I picked up
Sure.
from your IG again. I'm stalking you, obviously. This first one is good as well. Helping people make sense of their emotions is my passion. So obviously that is what you do.
Yep.
Making sense of their emotions.
Yep.
Yep. That's all you do is the emotional.
I do that all day, every day. I talk about feelings all day, every day.
Wow. And yeah, speaking about business, right? How often do you do this? As in, like, you work from home? Do you meet them outside? What is it like?
A lot of people are actually hesitant to sit and talk to me face to face. They actually feel better on a phone call.
On the phone?
Yeah, they feel safer on a phone call because then they can talk about it and just hear my voice. They don't have to worry about, did my face show any kind of No, I'm serious.
Did your face show any kinds of emotion?
Yeah, exactly. Am I judging them? Am I looking at them like they're stupid?
But I would want to know.
Some people don't want that. They really don't. Some people do video calls with me. They need to see that I'm actually listening to them, that I'm not like writing on a corner somewhere and like pretending like I'm doing other stuff.
Okay.
Some people need the in-person. Some people need to see my face.
Yeah.
Some people just want to hear my voice. Some people don't even want that. I do email correspondence with people still.
Email?
Email.
Wow.
Which means some of my shadow work courses, like the people who have taken that, they will get a prompt from me to start it off.
Okay.
And then from there, based on what all they say, I will go paragraph by paragraph and respond to what they're saying and correct them if they're doing it, if they're really hard on themselves or if they're like blowing something out of proportion.
How do you charge?
I'm
not saying how much, but
honestly,
I'm saying
I changed all of my rates. When COVID hit, it was so much more important for me to do the work than it was for me to make the money.
Wow. Okay, next one.
Yep.
If you want change, you must invite chaos.
Oh my God, that's my favorite. And actually, I have that tattooed behind my ear.
Seriously?
Yes.
All that. If you want change, you must invite.
It's Viking runes.
Wow.
But yeah, so if
That
you want
must be
change,
painful.
Not knowing this, it caused a lot of headaches, so I just gave myself one more, and now
Nice.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I chose that quote is because anything you do different is going to invite a new set of responses from people. So the first time you say no to somebody, they're like, what? How dare? I'm offended. You're saying no to all of me.
Yes.
Whereas now you have the possibility to have a conversation with them and say, no, I'm not rejecting all of you. I can't do it based on time. I can't do it based on energy level. I can't do it based on my skill set.
Okay.
There are so many reasons why I could be saying no. But you're saying no to protect your own energy.
Yeah.
That way you're not doing something out of obligation. Then you have then you're being really honest about what's possible.
Okay.
That's more of the kind of relationship I'm trying to help people establish in their lives.
I think that's the first step, isn't it?
Oh my God,
That change, but listen, it's difficult to change.
It
is.
is.
It's human nature. You
That
can't-
saying that, a known devil is better than an unknown devil is because you know what will happen if you don't do something. You know how
Yeah.
they're going to react. You've predicted it. You know how to kind of skate by. But you're not happy is the thing. A lot of people don't realize when you keep the peace around you with all the people around you, you start a war inside yourself because half the stuff you're doing you don't want to do. But you
Right.
can't say it out loud because then there's going to be other repercussions.
So say it out loud.
Please say it out loud.
The strength has always been inside you. It's the doubts you have to silence. I like this because it came. Because the context of this is, you said before that usually people say that behind a successful man is a successful woman, but it's actually is one of those examples that you gave. But actually, the strength comes from yourself, from
It
within.
comes from within yourself. I want people to realize that they are whole. No matter what part of their journey they're on, they've always been whole. It's about reinforcing certain things or being stronger in certain things because maybe they haven't had practice doing it, right? When we work out, you're into fitness, you train people. So when you work out, you do calisthenics, when you do mobility drills, stuff like that, there are aspects of your body that you're not used to training and will hurt.
Yes. of
Or
course.
you won't be able to bend as far,
Yeah.
and you judge yourself for that, but you don't realize that you keep doing that 2-3 times for every day or whatever. Suddenly, you're able to do way more
True.
than you were before.
Yeah.
So it's about being able to recognize that you can. It's just a matter of how will you.
Nice. Rasathi, we're almost at the end of our session, but we've got like this thing called a quickfire round or questions. It's easy for you, I'm sure, right? So let's go.
We'll see.
Your favorite food?
I don't have a favorite.
No?
No.
So,
I don't have any favorites.
What did you eat for lunch today?
I had an apple today.
All right, apple it is then. If you were a superhero, who and why?
Oh my God. Who and why? How are you gonna ask me this question? I have no idea. There is a superhero from the origins of Logan.
Okay. Wow.
Origins of Wolverine. It was
Okay.
his girlfriend at the time, or wife, or whatever.
Okay.
And she had the power to touch people and kind of de-escalate situations very quickly. It's like she convinced him of something. So there's like a good and a bad to every super ability, right?
Right.
My choice would be to de-escalate a situation so you can logically talk about stuff. Because you cannot feel and think at the same time. Did you know that?
I cannot feel and think at the same
You cannot
time.
have the feeling and the logic at the same time. You got to have one or the other.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So where you're in a heightened state, you cannot think logically.
I'll try tonight or later.
Let me know, okay.
Okay, random one, right? Hrithik Roshan or Shah Rukh Khan?
Shah Rukh Khan. Why?
Rajinikanth or Kamal?
Oh gosh. Kamal.
Favorite Hollywood actor?
Female?
Both.
Zoe Saldana.
Okay.
And male actor? Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Favorite genre of music?
I don't have one.
No?
I'm really bad about favorites. Don't ask. I'm very eclectic in
Okay.
life. Yeah.
What do you do to work out?
A little bit of everything, actually. Right now, I'm obsessed with primal movements.
Right.
And I picked up Muay Thai at the same time.
Ah.
But once upon a time, I was a Bharatanatyam dancer. So, I don't know. Everything.
Primal movements like the crawling and moving like
The mobility.
Yeah, the
so
mobility stuff.
in our culture, it was Karala,
Ah,
right?
okay,
The
okay.
Silambatam, all of that.
Okay.
Natural movements.
Right.
Not necessarily with dumbbells, but like weight.
Right. Your pet peeve about your work as a therapist? Something that you hate most is just like...
Selling my work to get clients. I hate that. I don't want to tell.
How do you do that, by the way?
I
Besides
don't.
word of mouth.
It's word of mouth.
Just like that.
Because I really so.
But you do your posting.
Yes, so that is in a way
Part-
marketing. So me showing up as myself and telling people about my
Okay.
journey and the things that I have conquered
Yeah.
is a way of telling people what I stand for, how
Okay.
I do my work.
Okay, fair enough.
That's about it.
Describe yourself in 3 words. Only 3 words.
Gumption, resilience, resourcefulness.
GRR. Nice. Okay, the last one. Last one before we go, right? This one you gotta lie.
I have to lie?
Yeah.
Oh god, okay.
Your favorite podcast at the moment.
Yours, obviously. Oh, that's terrible. I would have to say mine, because believe it or not, no. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Once I record it and put it up there, I don't listen to it again.
Yeah.
I do not edit.
I don't do that as well. No, as in I have to edit because it's a video and stuff. But
Right.
But I don't like listening to myself.
I hate the sound of my voice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Rasathi, before we go, any advice for people out there who is maybe who want to try out EI? I don't know. Is there any?
Honestly, the only advice is come ask me. If you have a
Yeah.
question, come ask me. If you don't know if EI would apply, come ask me. I've done corporate workshops for team building and conflict resolution where they come
Right.
to third-party vendors and stuff. I have done marriage counseling and retreats. I have done parenting. EQ. Whenever you have to deal with another human, EQ, EI, all of it.
This is marketing. So listen, if you need help and your IG handle.
Rasathi one.
Yeah.
That is the brand.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
So thank you once again, Rasathi, for being here. It has been wonderful. I wish it could go on because I think there's more to
We
this.
would keep on, yeah.
There's more to this in terms of the EI bit and the feeling and the
logic.
the logic and the
Feeling
feeling.
logic, yeah.
I'll try to do something.
When you're angry, can you be objective? That is what I'm saying. You can't be objective when you're angry.
Fair
You got to let it settle a little bit.
Right. This has been the first episode of 2023 with the Silverfox Hustle podcast. Again, before we go, don't forget to click on the follow button, subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, we're everywhere, and also follow Rasathi on her podcast as well and her business. This has been the latest episode, the Silverfox Hustle podcast. The hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. Cheers.